Welcome back to another episode of Timebreaker Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm Anthony.
And thanks for tuning in to episode 28. This episode, we're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder and The Boys Season 3, two mega pieces of comic book content that have dropped recently. First, we're going to talk about Thor, then to get into The Boys. We'll do general thoughts first and then go into spoilers, and then give you a little preview on what's to come next for the podcast. So let's just dive right into the 29th or something movie of the MCU.
Dude, I can't even remember what number at this point. Phase 4 has been just such a havoc when it comes to the amount of films being released, the amount of everything, that it's really just hard to keep a handle on what anything is anymore.
Yeah, they're moving at light speed. They're releasing like 3-4 movies a year and 20 mediocre TV shows a year and so much stuff, and it's hard to keep track of. Oversaturated is a great word to describe the situation of Marvel. But let's stay focused. Let's talk about Thor, Love and Thunder. General thoughts.
I've seen it twice now. First time, I think I was a little bit let down. Second time, I liked it more. And honestly, that's just been my case with a lot of movies recently, is I like them a lot more the second time. I think the only one that didn't happen was Spider-Man. Like, the first time was definitely better than the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth time I saw it.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, I think with this one specifically, it had a lot to do with expectations. Like, once you've seen it, once you've gotten past some things not happening and the way the story goes, I think it's a lot better because you kind of, the beat now. And so you can kind of go with it, where like the first time you're watching it, it's not exactly like that.
Yeah. So I've seen it once in IMAX and haven't seen it again. I'm going in a couple of days. So hopefully I get that same experience where I kind of warm up to it a little bit because, yeah, like you said, went in. I mean, I was generally entertained. I walked out being like, I had fun. That was like, it was worth my time. And like, I wasn't like hating myself being there in the theater watching it. But then I walked out and I was like, okay, that happened. Wasn't really great. Not super excited to rewatch it all the time and think about it all the time. It just kind of was like, okay.
Yeah, and I think Ragnarok just kind of made it so that, there was this higher expectation for this. I think it also had a lot going in, like a lot of pressure on it, being, right after Endgame. And honestly, Endgame is so long ago now, like it's almost
It's
just,
crazy.
it's like it's so unreal that anything is still taking place like directly after, but supposedly this film does. And my biggest gripe with this movie is its runtime is so low. And I think that really, really hurts it because of the fact that I feel like this movie is trying to slam through. Like, I feel like they could have explored a lot of things a lot better, and yet they didn't. And I think that's one of my bigger disappointments with this movie.
Right. And I mean, like this movie clocks in at right under 2 hours, and that's not short by any like general means, but for the story they're telling and kind of this recent MCU trend, they've been kind of going a little long. It feels a little short. And I think especially with and we'll go into specifics later on why I think it's short. I think while I loved Christian Bale as Gore, I felt like he was criminally underused, and I felt that the third act in particular is like not there at all. And yeah, and so there's a bunch of factors that go into this movie and probably the production. I've heard whispers of a lot of things. I've heard that who's the new guy? Chapek,
Mm-hmm.
who now kind of has a control over Kevin Feige, whereas before with Bob Iger, he had a little like kind of do whatever the heck he wants to do. I've heard Chapek kind of is not really that style and is like, yo, you got to keep this under 2 hours or whatever. So that's a possibility. And we also have to consider the idea too that wasn't Guardians 3 originally, before the whole James Gunn situation, supposed to come out before this movie?
Yeah, it was, but this movie wasn't even on the docket, so I couldn't. I don't really blame that for this because this movie wasn't in development probably until post Endgame anyway, and he got fired before Endgame even came out. So I really don't think that had a lot to do with it. Hell, I think at Comic Con when they announced this in 2019, I don't think they really had a plot going. I think they just had this idea that we're gonna bring Jane back, and that was, I think, as far as it gotten.
Right. Yeah. So the only angle I was trying to go at is because like Thor ends Endgame with the Guardians, so it would have been logical for him to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Then that kind of got scrapped, so they kind of had to rework this movie to fit that in. That's my point.
Yeah, you can kind of feel it. I like being as big of a fan of the Guardians as I am. I thought they were like ridiculously underused. Underused is just it's a very small word for what it was. I mean, it was almost like you didn't even need them there. Like honestly, it would have been even funnier if they had just straight dropped him off with none of the Guardians showing up. All it is just a ship and then
Right.
just dipping because that's how it felt.
Yeah. Like to me, yeah, like underused. I mean, that underused infers that they were used. Like it's almost like they're just there, right? Aside from like Star Lord, who has a couple lines, and even then, it didn't like feel 100% like Star Lord to me a little bit. I don't know if that's just a different director or whatever, or if Chris Pratt's just evolving in his approach with his career. But yeah, it felt very like shoot in. And granted, I mean the action is great. I think Taika does a great job doing action throughout the entire film and even across his other projects and in Ragnarok and his Mandalorian episodes or whatnot. So I mean that's a strong point there. But yeah, just the whole integration with the Guardians was just a little misplaced to me a little.
Yeah, and I'm not, it's another one of those instances where it's like we knew they were in it, but you probably could have left them out of marketing. Like the fact
Yeah,
that the whole first teaser trailer like had the Guardians in it pretty significantly to then having them like pretty much, I mean, not even really a spoiler, but like the first trailer pretty much shows you all of the footage that they're in. It's
right.
pretty insane.
Yeah, there are not a whole lot of surprises, but yeah, I mean, like I liked Natalie Portman. I thought she was good in it and kind of felt more meaningful than she had in the other two Thor movies. Um, and I thought the supporting cast was pretty solid overall. Uh, I'm trying to think and dance around without going into spoilers, but I think that's all I got so far.
Yeah, it's another it's starting to like hurt me to say this, but it's another Marvel movie.
Yep,
Like I don't know, Marvel this phase hasn't really been like swinging punches. It's more like they're just scooting along and knowing that they still
they're just
at
on
least have
cruise
the
control.
yeah, they still have the audience, but I feel like they pulled all their strings in phase 3 and I don't know if this is just a burnout for audiences and the production team or what, but I do feel like Marvel kind of, I thought the 1 year break was like, you know what, this is enough for them to reset. Now I'm like, maybe movies shouldn't have started coming back until like next year because I think you could have seen a much bigger gap between Endgame and all these new releases.
Well, I mean, they took the year break, but then they also came back, swinging too much. Like there's so much stuff they're trying to do without, I think, enough attention and care for each individual project. We've seen it in, some of the weaker storytelling. We've seen it at the pace that the productions are moving and the rate at the which the VFX are being pumped out. And we've said consistently with this phase in particular that the VFX are kind of lacking versus,
Yeah, and
phase three. Hell, even I could watch Iron Man and some of that stuff still looks amazing.
yeah, I think it's just a statement of the fact that I think, like, I'm sorry to say this, but I think they're like we're talking about oversaturation. It's just they are doing too much at once, and it's affecting the films, it's affecting the TV shows. Like everything has bad VFX. Everything is just kind of like we did a whole podcast about like release dates, and Marvel's kind of just like slapping that out of the way and just saying screw it because I don't feel like their TV shows are like getting prime release dates. I also just you know, I've had this issue with series before, and now the MCU is now approaching my limit of like what I can handle because the Arrowverse did this for a long time where
Oh boy.
they went from Arrow to the Flash, and I was like, okay, like two shows I can juggle that, and then all of a sudden it went from two to four, and immediately I couldn't keep up anymore. They were releasing just the Arrow and the Flash alone was releasing 46 episodes a year to then add on another, I think Legends was doing like 16 and the other ones were doing, something similar. And so it
Right.
was so much content that I just pretty much I walked away and said, I can't do this. It's too much. And I think Marvel's starting to become the same position.
Right. Well, I think, and we're very critical of Marvel, and we have all these complaints, and there's all these things that they're lacking in quality. But despite all that, despite what all the like a decent amount of the film community has to say, these movies are still making a lot of money, and that's still evident in the box office for Thor.
It is evident in this back end of phase four. The first section of phase
Right.
four definitely wasn't um anything to be proud about. I mean, you were looking at 370 to 440 at the max last year. I think Disney's whole Disney Plus approach, I think it is actually shot like fired back at them so bad. I really don't know how you recover from this. Like, yeah, you got Doctor Strange to make 950 million, but I don't see Thor: Love and Thunder making 950 million, and
Oh no.
and Black Panther is probably 50-50 if it can do those numbers.
I don't even know if Thor, Love and Thunder will make Ragnarok's numbers. I mean, it opened bigger, but I still don't even know if it'll get up there.
Yeah, but the advantage with Ragnarok was the fact that it played through Thanksgiving, probably near Christmas, and it also was just much more loved. And I
Right.
don't know if this one that's the weird thing about this one. I haven't heard much like from other people. Like I love certain aspects of this movie a ton, and like people know
Right.
that there are certain parts I really love. But I am not talking about like the way it was Ragnarok, where I was so impressed. But the crazy thing is, back in 2017, I was only seeing movies once. Like I didn't really have a chance to see these movies twice. So I only saw Ragnarok once. So I've already seen Love and Thunder more than I saw Ragnarok in theaters.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen movies one or two times like the pretty consistently over the years, but I mean, you also got to look at two, the Ragnarok was one of the last films going up into that whole Infinity War Endgame saga, whereas, Love and Thunder is just another notch on the totem pole. Like we don't really know it's just a solo adventure, it's a one-off pretty much, and it's kind of a standalone thing.
Yeah, I feel like if this movie had come out during phase two or something, like this would have been a much better movie. I don't even know. Not that it would be better, but like
Right.
it wouldn't be positioned after phase three. And it wouldn't I just think phase three built so well up to something that it's hard to be seeing Marvel not going towards anything. And if they are going to something, it's gotta be something so like either so big that has so many small little parts that we're not seeing it,
Right.
or they're really just not building to anything and they're telling their directors just make these movies for now. We'll get a plan for next phase.
And I mean, the biggest, argument that people put is that like phase four is like a new phase one. Well, phase one still was teasing that these characters were going to team up.
Yeah, and phase four has been teasing that they're never going to team up again because the continuous thing Marvel keeps saying is no, we're kind of done with that was the last Avengers movie, blah blah blah. Like they kind of keep putting it down, and like I understand why, but at the same time, it's like I feel like it's honestly hurting them more than it's helping them.
Right. If anything, the most connective tissue these movies have is Wong showing up in all of them. But
He didn't
that's
show
a,
up in this one,
I know, but
so
I'm saying
oh,
that's
spoiler, my bad. In
sorry, a
case
guy
you
who
thought.
wasn't advertised in the movie is not in the movie. um,
Okay, the marketing for this movie is at least better than the last one because I felt Multiverse of Madness revealed
oh,
so much as
yeah.
trailers where oh boy, Marvel is starting to get a third act problem. Because I noticed pretty early on that a lot of the third act is in the trailers, and I'm like, ugh.
Well, the problem with this one and the reason why it didn't have that problem is because there was no third act to show in the trailers.
Yeah, if you're going to label this movie, there's Act 1, Act 1.2, and then just Act 1.7.
Oh,
There
I
isn't
think
even
that I
really
think there's a second act.
yeah, it's such a weird, wonky way that this movie's plot is like if you wrote it on a piece of paper, you'd be shocked it even clocks in at its runtime
Yeah. Okay.
because it's so just like it's such
Uh,
a short narrative.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting pretty close, so we're gonna go into spoilers right now and just like kind of let it all out. So if you haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder, come back. We won't miss you. You will be welcome back once you guys know the full extent of the film. But yeah, so the why I say it's Act One and Act Two. So Act One happens, and I think Act One kind of ends when he takes the children, and then they get the team together, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna go to Omnipotent City, and we're gonna go get the kids back."
Yeah, I
And
would
then
agree.
and then Act Two is from then till the Shadow Realm fight, and then they get defeated and they come back to New Asgard and they gotta regroup. That's Act Two, and then Act Three is literally the next scene. They go to Eternity and fight him, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's like a video game almost. Like it's like a mission select, and you select the final mission because they
Right?
straight
There's
up
no
just
like,
plop down.
yeah, there's no arc to that last boss fight. It's just like, yeah, next mission. It's it's that.
Yeah, there's not even a cutscene.
Yeah, no, it just jumps right in.
And it's not to say I don't like this movie. Like I was dying. Like this movie is funny, but for plot purposes, it's got a very basic story, and it started off like it piqued my interest. Like Gore as a villain, I was intrigued.
Yeah, no, Christian Bale kills it. Like I said.
And yeah, then you start running into issues because he's another I don't even know if it's a Marvel problem, but a villain problem in general. He takes a back seat for so long in the movie that you almost forget he's there because
Yeah,
he just doesn't do anything.
people have been saying, like, and it's been a thing, but yeah, people have been saying it's not a Marvel. Oh, it's a very Marvel thing to like not even highlight the villain, and the villain is just kind of there to be like a force against the hero, which I get, but we've got some standout villains before, and Christian Bale can do it, and we saw that he could do it in this movie. But for someone being called Gore the God Butcher, wasn't a lot of God butchering. That was my biggest problem.
Yeah, one of the notes I wrote after I saw it the second time was the fact that I would have liked to have seen an action sequence before the distress call at the beginning of like near the end, near like the middle of the first act. I would have
Right.
liked to have seen Gore show up and actually like do stuff, and then the Guardians and Thor get that distress call. But instead, again, this movie kind of I don't know if it's not even if like because I've heard there's a 4 hour cut of this, so I'm not even sure if like maybe that was an idea, but then they cut it. But I don't know. It's just everything felt very like it was very dialogue heavy, where it was just like it would explain what's going on rather than showing it.
Right. And I would have even taken like if it was like a 1-2 minute montage of just him going across all those different planets and just killing everybody. Like it doesn't have to be like a designated scene or whatever where it's all like locked down. Like I could have just easily taken that, just kind of get an idea of what he was capable of.
Yeah, I think this movie has a problem of getting like, yeah, he's a villain, but I don't think they really like cementing like they cemented in that Thanos is like an ultimate evil and like he is
Right. That opening
powerful,
scene.
but they didn't do that with Gore in this one. They kind of just had you assume, but never showed why. Like everyone's afraid of him, but they didn't give you a reason why.
And I think also too why Thor or Gore gets undercut so much as the villain is because whenever Gore is about to shine or do something, they always undercut it and go for the joke and switch the tone. So you saw that right away. Like even just in that opening scene, it's very dark and it's very emotional with him losing his daughter. And then he goes and meets this god who's an absolute joke. Like I could not take it seriously. Like how we have Gore, the super serious dude that, just went through everything, and they're just juxtaposing it with this dude that I looks like a cartoon character, and I can't even take him seriously. And that happens all throughout the movie. Like I did think a lot of it was funny. I also think that they kind of beat some jokes way too hard and went for the joke every single time when they could have gone for something else. Which, I mean, I still think Ragnarok had a healthy balance of emotion, stakes, while also finding levity and jokes in it as well. But this movie always goes for the joke and repeats the same joke a lot. And the fact that it takes Gore to physically use shadow monsters to shut up the characters and wrap their mouths for it to actually be a serious scene is really saying something. Like they have to go to that extent where they actually have to shut Thor up for him to not joke around.
Yeah, I had similar feelings. I think you got a more extreme like feel on it. I just definitely got a sense of like conflicting tones. There's specifically the scene when Thor goes to the distress call, and like it's a super serious scene, and then the
Oh
joke
yeah.
about her arm going to, and like,
Yeah, I'm like, what?
and it was one of the, it was like it's a prime joke in the movie that really just like didn't hit right at like even in any sense. Like it just came off as so tacky and so out of nowhere that I don't know. I didn't really like that joke. Like it's funny, but it
Right.
kills the mood.
Yeah, it should be a scene about like, oh my God, Gore just killed this thing. He's super powerful. Sif is wounded. We need to fear his power. This is what he's capable of. We got to get you some help. But no, it's like, oh, hey, you lost your arm. Ha 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 ha. And it's like, what? And I mean, like, I've heard like mixed things. Like some people love certain jokes, some people don't. I mean, I laughed when they did the whole Stormbreaker Mjolnir love triangle. Like that first
Oh
scene
my god.
when Stormbreaker just like edges into frame. Like like that's funny. But then they did it like three more times. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And then the other one was the goats. Like
Dude, the
they're
goats are
ridiculous.
legend.
Like I thought the goats were super cringe every scene except for the one where they hit the planet. That was the only one that I thought was funny.
You know, I have a great appreciation for the goats. They livened up every scene they were. I really enjoyed them.
Okay.
They're stupid. They're
Yeah.
really stupid. But like, I don't know why, but just their scream just makes me laugh. So I was a okay with the goats,
Yeah. If you need a new alarm clock sound, there you go.
dude. Straight up. You know, before we even touch like the final act, there's a big problem I have with this movie after seeing it a second time, and it's something I did not feel about Ragnarok. There is no good score for this movie. Like there are good
Oh yeah,
songs,
no.
but the score of this movie
Yeah,
is trash.
so forgettable. I didn't even notice any of the music versus like Thor Ragnarok was super cosmic and synth pop and everything. It was very unique for that movie. And then this movie,
Doesn't even
nothing.
have one.
I couldn't tell you a single or scene of a song that I recognized happened. None of it.
Like you went from like personally, the Dark World probably had the most like up until Ragnarok was like the most memorable. Like I like Loki's death, like music, like it was good. That was the one like thing I remember about Dark World. And then Ragnarok just had a very like catchy, unique,
Right.
score to it. And then this one, I realized like about halfway through, I'm like, this movie doesn't have a score. Like it does, but it's not memorable in any sense.
Right. And then going off to you mentioned the death of Loki. I knew it was going to come. It happened. I still thought it was funny that it was like another callback. Luke Hemsworth, Sam Neill, and Matt Damon return as the performers in this movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was hilarious. I think I liked the one in Ragnarok
Oh
more. This
yeah,
one was a
because you
little
don't
more
see it
dragged
coming.
out.
Yeah, and this and they have two scenes in this movie. Whereas like okay, and Korg is back in here. I found him funnier in Ragnarok. That joke about the the Rock at the end, Dwayne, I thought was funny. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
they even squeeze Meek in there. He's like a councilman or something in New Asgard.
Dude, both times, so he's like writing on the board, and both times I started looking around the theater. I'm like, what the hell is this noise? But
Right,
I was
yeah,
like,
it's such
oh,
a
that's the movie. Like, I don't know
yeah.
why, but both times I like actually started like literally looking around my theater. I'm like, who's making that noise?
Yeah, I think I did the same thing, right? Because it's just the sound design for that part is quite interesting. Um, so yeah, let's go into the end. Um, I think the whole thing with the kids was I liked what happened and why it happened, but again, this movie in a way kind of breaks Thor canon a few times. And the whole like how he was able to bestow his power to them came out of nowhere. I'm like, that's very interesting. That would have been helpful for Endgame or Infinity War at Wakanda, just maybe.
That was my
Um,
exact thought.
you know, I mean, some people are like, oh, because it's the lightning bolt, because it's all yellow lightning. And I'm like, then why is it the power of Thor? And why does he know how to do that? Like,
Yeah, I feel like
I
they
don't
could have
know.
explained it a lot better. Like I that more than likely that is their justification behind it, but I would
Right.
have liked them to have push more into that being the reason why, because I feel like it was just kind of out of nowhere. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, you've been sitting on this the whole time, eh?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's
Uh,
like the force healing that Star Wars has introduced that like kind of just breaks everything. But
right.
you know what? They did it, so now you know.
Qui-Gon is rolling in his grave as the only person to die from being stabbed by a lightsaber. That's beside the point. Um, yeah, and then we get this nice fight between him, Gore, and then Natalie Portman joins the fight again, and then they get to eternity, which I mean, for something that was super impossible to do, and people have been trying since the dawn of time, quite convenient that they were able to do in this movie. That's not the point. Um, and what I do also appreciate about this movie is that it had a kind of arc with Thor, and he kind of grows in the movie versus when I looked at Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, the story and the problem that is presented with Doctor Strange never gets resolved. Of the are you happy? But the Thor, he like finds himself, finds the meaning of love and relationships and why that's important, and the fact that he grows and he's changed allows him to affect the people around him and allows him to inspire Gore to make the right call, um, and bring back his daughter. I thought that was very powerful. And then the fact that it's played by Chris Hemsworth's daughter, I think makes the last scene of the movie, like the chemistry is perfect, and it's so heartwarming, the fact that they were able to get that to happen.
Yeah, I think overall, like the decisions and the ending, like they're actually really impactful. I really like the fact that like there's it, maybe not long enough, but like when Natalie Portman's Thor, Mighty Thor, comes down, like the look on Thor's face, like kind of says it all. It's like because the whole point is like she comes, this is it, and like you kind of see that
Right.
in his face, and like I just thought it was really good in like execution. I thought the scene was very short, but like it got what it was trying to do across really well.
Yeah.
um I really liked the like when the right before this scene when they were in the hospital, like there's just a lot of good chemistry between the two of them, and I think it just
Right.
like I think if these two didn't have chemistry, I think a lot of this movie just wouldn't have worked very well. But because they
Oh
do,
yeah.
like it works really well. Um, I definitely like the color palette change when you went into what was it called?
Oh, the Shadow Realm. That was
Yeah, the
so
Shadow
dope.
Realm.
That was
Yeah,
so cool.
but the final fight is kind of it's very CGI heavy. It's not the worst
Right.
CGI in the movie, but it's very very. But I think yeah, my major complaint is that it kind of just comes out of nowhere. Like, yep, let's just go kill the boss. I would have liked
Yeah.
some more build up to that. But I think overall, like I really like the movie. It's just the fact that I think there's a lot of scenes where you could have added things to enhance it.
Right. And I mean, like we said about their chemistry, I think that whole montage that they did, kind of filling in the post Thor Dark World relationship, I thought was very helpful and effective. And it helped motivate. and give meaning towards a lot of the stuff that happened in this movie too.
Yeah, I think one thing I would have liked just editing wise, I think I would have preferred them having not shown like Jane until after he sees her catch the hammer.
Mm,
Like I feel like it could have like imagine if it had not been marketed. Imagine like everything like that. Like you
right.
didn't know she was in it, and then she just, you know, his hammer starts flying around, and then she's the one that catches it. Like that would have been really really cool.
Right.
But instead, it's kind of one. It was spoiled a long time ago at Comic Con.
Yeah.
On top of that, it was all over the marketing, and then the film, pretty much alluded to it anyway.
Well, it's one of those things where when you're making a movie and trying to market it, you have to see what's worth it being a reveal or what's worth it, helping you actually get seats in or people in seats. Is it an actual selling point or is it a reveal you want to save? And this one, unlike No Way Home or Multiverse of Madness, didn't have too many reveals that it needed to save. And I think it was still a very effective selling point to get people to go out and see the movie. So it's just that balance you have to figure out.
Yeah. The one scene we kind of glanced over that is an okay scene is the scene where he go to recruit the gods.
Yeah, it's a big joke that leads into an action sequence. Russell Crowe plays a ridiculous Zeus, if you will.
Very.
Yeah, and I was entertained while it was happening, but it
Yeah, it
kind of
doesn't really
doesn't
hold much for.
progress the story any. It's like they go there to get the weapon, I guess, and just to realize that they're in it all alone. That's pretty much it.
Yep. But the last few things I have for this movie, so like more of just like futury, but we're not going to talk about Phase 5 yet. But just like things about the movie. This is now the sixth Marvel movie to not get released in China. Do you think the MCU is done there?
Um, Probably. I think, they're doubling down with, the content that they want to put in their movies, which China doesn't agree with. And I mean, China has every right to do it. They're their own country, and China's putting out their own movies, and they're doing pretty well there. So if they want to do their thing, that's totally fine. And and Disney's signing up for it. If they want to put out the stuff that they want to put out in their movies and they know China's not going to be down with it, then they got to understand that they're losing that market. And they're still making a lot of money, so it's not really hurting them. But so you just got to ask yourself, what's a couple hundred million to you?
Yeah,
Is it
it's
worth
just
it?
it's crazy though because Endgame did so well there, and so it's like you take that off of Endgame, yeah, it's still over 2 billion, but
Yeah.
it ain't anywhere close to 2.8.
Yeah, I think they don't really care that they're sacrificing the revenue to put out
Well, they want.
the content that they want to put out. Yeah. So it's their call, and they're still doing it. They're still making money.
Yeah, and the last thing, I had read an article that Chris Hemsworth and didn't know the Thor will return was in the post credits.
Yeah, I saw that too. I don't know how valid that is. You got to think, if they shot that whole thing with Zeus and Hercules, like, go get
Go
vengeance.
figure.
Yeah, what did you think was gonna happen? You think, oh, we're gonna just recast him or something? Like, I don't know, or just leave that thread hanging forever. Don't know. It leaves off where, like, yeah, they could keep it going. I don't know if Chris Hemsworth really wants his daughter to go in the limelight like that, or if they just wait, do a time jump and cast like Millie Bobby Brown, or a young actress or something to play his daughter.
Oh yeah, more
Or
than
not
likely
not
that'll
his
be the
daughter.
approach.
Not his daughter, his adopted niece. Right, because she calls him Uncle Thor, which I was glad she didn't call him Dad. That'd been weird. Um, but yeah, so, and if it's Taika, if it's not Taika, I'll take it either way. I still like Hemsworth as Thor, the character, and I think he's probably coming up on the second longest tenure of a actor playing a role in a superhero movie. He's coming up on Hugh Jackman. He's still a couple years out, but he's getting there. And he still physically can do it, especially with how um, effects heavy these films are. So yeah, I mean, it could totally happen. I don't know if it won't happen until Phase 5, I imagine.
Oh yeah, no.
But
The last thing I didn't mention when we were talking about the opening, I loved the. I don't even know what they are, but they look like these just Muppet things. They're so jittery.
yeah, they're definitely practical animatronic creatures
Yeah, I
for
absolutely
sure.
loved them. I was dying. Like the way they move is just so funny.
Yeah, they look like oh, what's that little bird looking dude that is on Java?
Oh, I don't even know what it's called, but I know what you're
But
talking about.
yeah, but they kind of remind me of that a little bit.
So yeah, that kind of wraps up our talk of Thor: Love and Thunder. Good time.
Yeah,
Still glad I saw an IMAX and in the theaters rather than
right.
Disney Plus did. Granted, I've never Disney Plus one of these before,
Oh
but
no.
you know.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's solidly either my second or third favorite Thor movie. Still kind of having that debate because I like Thor 1 and this movie for different reasons. But yeah, still good, still great. I think it's still kind of that upper tier of Phase 4. That's, I mean, not saying much because Phase 4 has been kind of a mess. It's not Shang-Chi, it's not No Way Home, but it's still good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It would probably rank number 2 for me. I'm not a fan of the first two movies anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, now that we've wrapped that up, it's time to talk about The Boys on Amazon Prime.
Yes, sir. This is, in my opinion, the best piece of comic book content we have gotten this year. Better than Thor, better than the Batman, better than whatever stuff has come out this year, comic book movies. I haven't seen Peacemaker though, but although I have a feeling I'll like The Boys better than Peacemaker. So yeah, Boy season 3 on Amazon Prime Video has come out. I joined the Boys train late. I'll be honest. Season 3 was already in the midst of premiering, and I never watched The Boys. But then I went and binged the whole thing, caught up, and finished out season 3. And by golly, gee willikers, this show is freaking fantastic.
Yeah, I started watching it back when it first aired in 2019, and then watched season 2 when it aired. I've never really like stayed caught up to a point where like I was finishing at least after season 1. Like I wasn't watching them weekly. I was typically like watching the first batch. So it was first 3 episodes, the way that Amazon does this. First 3 episodes, I'd jump back in somewhere around the middle or end and then finish it off.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I did the whole binge, and we're pretty much just gonna stick to season 3 for now because it's fresh. And since it's a TV show, it's hard to talk generally, kind of like we did with Obi-Wan. So we're probably just gonna dive right into spoilers right off the rip.
Yeah, I mean, we can kind of say some things we liked about season 1, or at least like season 1, like kind of, you know,
It just takes you by storm.
yeah, it really like you have this idea of what a superhero show can be, and within like the first 5 minutes, it throws that out the window.
Yeah, from the moment that A Train runs through his girlfriend, I was like, WTF is this show?
Yeah, that like that it alone just
That is
explains the
the
entire show.
that is the eye opening moment where you come to realize, like, oh, we're in for something special here. They don't give a crap about mature content.
Yeah, TVMA for real.
Yeah, and I mean, it's almost like I never feel like it's like kind of for a meme or what, like, if it's reaching just to do it. I feel like, especially after that, like that first episode, the world they set in, it's just come to be a normal thing where I expect it, so it never feels out of place whenever something crazy happens. And speaking of season 3, something crazy happens in the very first episode that you're like, what the actual hell is going on?
Okay, when they said there's going to be something in the first 15 minutes, it's gonna really like just gonna be the wildest thing you've seen on anything ever. I didn't think it was gonna be that. I
Yeah,
was
they
like,
they did the
whoa.
Ant-Man thing, and if for you guys don't know, before Endgame was coming out, there's this whole theory that, and Thanos is actually very easy to take out. You just have Ant-Man shrink tiny and then go up Thanos's butt and then go back to normal size. And, he would implode from the inside out. They did it a little different. Instead, they went up the other end and then he sneezes and then accidentally goes big and kills that dude in a bloody mess. And so that's already insane. And the fact that they did that on a prime time show. But to me, perhaps the more crazy part is that I've seen the behind the have you seen the behind the scenes pictures of they actually built the thing?
Oh no,
like it's a thing and like it's all practical. And yeah, so I mean, props to the show and their production value for, going that extra mile of, getting it done. But that just goes to show you and set like the stage for season 3. Like we're still here, we're still edgy, and we're still gonna blow your mind.
yeah, these seasons, the way they work, they're not your normal like season one and we're gonna end on a cliffhanger, and so season two is gonna start immediately. Like every season has a time jump. So the events of season two happened, weeks or month. I don't know how long exactly. It might have said in the show, but I don't recall at this point. But you know, when you got the Nazi girl dead and
Right.
Superboy had his mother killed.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like, especially with season 3, the time jump feels pretty relative to the actual release of the show because, Huey's been at his job for a while and, it seems like a decent amount of time has passed in season 2.
Yeah. Um, so each of these seasons kind of has an issue. They start off really slow, but then they like just they get out of hand. They go crazy, like, and so
Right.
then you're ready to finish it up. This season's no different. I felt the first episode or two was pretty slow. They take their time getting the ball rolling, but they actually do a really good job. And once that ball is rolling, they know exactly what they want to do, and they just keep it going.
Right. And, unlike other shows or other series where they'll have similar issues where it's like kind of just like we're just kind of teeing you up for a finale. While the shows kind of start slower here, I still feel like there's enough episode or not episodes, moments in each episode to give you enough oomph, like we said, like that opening for episode 1 of season 3, or like little tidbits here and there. I mean, in general, every time Homelander is on screen, it's just this level of anxiety of you just don't know what's gonna happen because he's such a loose cannon.
Yeah, and I think that's like this show's greatest strength is the fact that you have a character that is so unhinged that really a scene can go perfectly fine, or a scene can go absolute crazy, and you can get just an unexpected ending to a scene that you weren't expecting.
Right. And props to Anthony Starr. He's one of the best villains on TV working right now. I mean, he is an absolute standout for the show and does amazing things as Homelander.
Yeah, he's really been like the standout. I really liked Huey, and I really like
Carl
Butcher,
Urban.
but
Yeah.
yeah, Carl Urban is Butcher. But he really has like he really is playing like two different roles. He's playing the good guy, but he knows how to twist it really quickly into just sinister.
Right. And he does a great job of riding this line where sometimes, he's putting on a nice face, but that he really wants to take you out, or if he's like kind of going rage mode and has to, kind of bring it back. And, he has these little outbursts here and there. And so, and like you said, it's a very volatile character and you just never know what's going to happen with him on screen. And I think that's a huge thing that keeps you engaged with the show.
Yeah, and this is a show kind of like early Game of Thrones that isn't afraid to really, you have your main cast and like you had the main cast of Game of Thrones too, but like anyone that's not your main characters can straight up be on a chopping block within seconds.
Right. I mean, think of like it was in like one of those beginning 3 episodes, right? Where the chick was gonna commit suicide on the building.
Yeah.
Like, dude. And he's like, no, do it, jump. Because he got like tired or whatever what she was saying. And he's like, no, just jump. I'm telling you, do it.
Yeah, and this is like one of those areas where this show gets away with like a lot. Like there's a
Oh,
lot of things where you're just like, did they just do that? Are they allowed to
yeah.
do that?
There's so many things. Um, and the stuff that Homelander can do unchecked, and and again, there's so much like corporate stuff and backlash, with the congresswoman taking out Giancarlo Esposito, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
Big
like all this stuff going on. Um, and it just adds to like you don't know whose side everybody's on, aside from like the boys, they're a pretty tight knit group, but and I mean even then in this season, we kind of got some infighting with them too between like Butcher and
Yeah, it's a very wild season. They got just a really really good like they have a good sense of like what to do. Like I'm actually surprised each episode or sorry, each season has been roughly the same length, and they do a really good job filling these seasons out. And
right,
they always introduce something to really like shake it up. And when something gets old, they know to like pull something out to raise the stakes. So this season, you had early on the introduction of temporary V, where
right,
our main characters can become super have superhero powers for 24 hours, I believe, right?
right,
And by the fourth, fifth episode, it's kind of getting played out. And so then they go, now let's introduce something else. And that was when Soldier Boy got introduced, was when, you had a general sense of what was going on and things, and Soldier Boy was just a way to escalate the show towards its finale.
right. And great addition to the show. I mean, he's one of the best anti-hero characters that we've gotten. Again, he's kind of like another Homelander, very unpredictable, but very different in his own right. And great memes from him too. We got the Solid Gold song that is absolutely amazing that I saw going around TikTok a lot. It's stupid, but I mean it's funny. And like you said, and then we got a lot of bombs dropped with Soldier Boy. I mean, they pulled the freaking Empire Strikes Back.
Right?
He's like, I am your father, son. Like, what? Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I didn't either. They'd kind of like hinted at it, but I'm like, nah, there's no way.
Yeah. Do we know who Homelander's mom is?
No.
Because I've
As far,
seen some people think it was Storm, whatever. What was her name? Storm Chaser, whatever.
the Nazi girl?
Stormfront. Yeah, yeah. But I mean,
Oh,
I don't know.
that'd
Like,
be
I
a
mean,
little
I could
weird.
see it, but yeah, it'd be weird. Um, but yes, the fact that now we have Soldier Boy and Homelander, and then Ryan is kind of crazy, and and Soldier Boy has a very unique power, which again added a little bit stakes to it. The fact that he can kind of go nuclear and take away your powers. I don't know if the way they explain it is it like melts the V from your blood or whatever.
Yeah, that was the way they were explaining in the
Okay,
show.
yeah. So now my question, and then we see eventually, Maeve has quite an arc, and she takes the L and sacrifices herself and loses her powers to save everybody. My question in theory is I don't know if he could do that to Ryan or Homelander because they never got injected. They were born naturally.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I don't know if he'll be coming back ever.
Right.
So I'm not sure if we'll ever actually see that get played out anyway.
Right. But it's a very interesting take on, like what are because we still don't there's still so much that we don't know about, the powers and the lineage and what, Ryan and Homelander are capable of because they are naturally born. Um, and I think also, like you said, with he's not. We don't know if he's coming back. And they put him back in the S. The parallels between like the amount of like classic superheroes we have is funny, and just like the twist they have. Like he's very influenced by Captain America, like, is he not?
Oh, absolutely. The
And then,
fact that he was frozen, woken up,
right,
brought
like
to a different century,
like the fact that it's
and
so on the nose, but like they still like don't really do anything with it. I think it's funny. And same thing, like Maeve is like Wonder Woman, the Deep is Aquaman, Homelander, Superman. Like there's so many like copies of everything, but it's its own unique spin on it. And I find it to be arguably a much more realistic spin on it in the boys than, in whatever other medium these superheroes are in.
yeah, the deepest season was super duper weird. And A Train's whole story was also like just really, really weird. I'm glad A Train's like went the way it did. It was actually like it was fitting for his character to just like finally do something because he's like I feel like A Train's like the most like like he's very obsessed with like being famous, and
Right.
so never
And
really does anything for anyone but himself. And so to see him, you know, fight for someone else was kind of a different arc for him.
right. And like you said with the Deep, he's entertaining. I mean, they got a lot of jokes, with the octopus and everything, but I feel like they don't really know what to do with him. I mean, he's kind of an airhead. He doesn't have like a whole lot of purpose. I mean, he's pretty much only just trying to like be in the good graces of Homelander so he doesn't die, and he's just trying to be worth or be of value. So I mean, I don't know if they're teeing up. I could definitely see it with A Train that they're kind of like teasing that maybe A Train's going to switch sides. I don't know if they're going to do that with the Deep too, but um, they're definitely going to need a little bit more help if they're going to go up against Homelander and now Ryan in the future.
Yeah, the Ryan twist of this season is kind of I'd argue it's one of the biggest twists. I didn't see it coming because it really
Um,
happens really close to the end. Is that he kind of is like Butcher abandoned him, but now he's abandoning the idea of Butcher.
right. And I mean, I've seen some people say that I don't know if Ryan's all evil because like some people have interpreted, in that last episode where they're about to throw down, Ryan says, "Dad, I want to leave." If that's also Ryan saying like, because he knows his dad can probably kill all of them. If he's like, "No, let's leave," so he doesn't hurt them right now.
Right.
But then we get to that last scene and Ryan smiles, and then I'm like, "Oh boy."
Yeah, and it's definitely setting up like a season 4 that's I mean, if executed correctly, like these 3 seasons have been can be just really, really good. I'm actually really curious how many more seasons this show has left in it. Most good shows don't go past like a fifth, sixth season typically.
Right. I mean, I could definitely. I don't think four would be the last. I could see maybe five being kind of like the, and I mean six would be kind of. And they'd have to introduce a lot of stuff for it to like warrant be going six. But um, yeah, I mean, like the way this one ends in particular with Homelander murdering somebody in broad daylight and then having an entire crowd of people cheer, and so now that it's okay for him to do that, definitely opens up a can of worms that is going to be quite interesting to see moving forward. And we could see him, climbing up, taking out people. We could see him declare himself president, and or something. And who knows what they're going to do with him. But this has definitely been taken to the next level now.
Yeah. Escalate. Yeah, this is like pumping it 5 levels up. Like this is it's a whole new era that I think the boys season 4 is going to enter into.
100%. And on top of it being amazing action and great acting, and the storytelling being so unpredictable, it's also very timely, and the satire in the show is unmatched. We look at I don't know if you caught when they made fun of that Kendall Jenner Pepsi or whatever commercial with A
Oh,
Train breaking the crowd and going out to the cops with the drink. That's
I
funny.
had actually, yeah, I wasn't sure what that was from. I'd never, but it was funny. I was like,
Right.
this is dumb.
Yeah, no, they're making fun of this stupid commercial. And then when they did in the Hero Gasm episode, they did the Imagine, the Gal Gadot thing that she did when the lockdown started. I thought that was hilarious. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, there's just so many things that they're just so like on the nose and just tackling every political angle that just makes the show so much more entertaining.
yeah, Herogasm should just not be viewed by anyone. It's very, very inappropriate.
Yeah, they went hard, and I mean they started putting out some warnings in front of the episodes, but that one in particular was pretty crazy, not gonna lie.
Yeah, this show takes its TVMA seriously. It holds it with a badge of honor.
It really does. Once you like as soon as you think you've seen it all, they say, "Hold my beer."
That
And they
like
they take it to the next level. Um, but overall, I thought this is a really solid season. With the addition of Soldier Boy and the Temp V, I thought the stakes had never been higher, and with the way the show ended, I think is just we're we're in the end game now. It's just to be funny. We're really in uncharted waters here, and anything could go, and so it's going to be interesting seeing season 4.
yeah, for sure.
So that covers it for our topics for today. But just to give a little preview of what's to come in our next episode, I'm pretty sure we're talking about Bullet Train, right?
Yep, we'll be talking about Bullet Train probably. We will probably talk about Phase 5 because I believe that's going to be coming on the docket soon with the announcement of everything.
Right.
And then we're not exactly sure. The big movies are kind of all out now, and House of Dragons won't end until August,
Right.
or sorry, not August, October. I think the first week of October is when it ends.
Okay.
And I know that the Lord of the Rings show on Amazon Prime premieres in September, but I don't know how many episodes that is.
That's probably going to go for a while too.
Yeah, it's probably till October, November, and I'll be seeing The Gray Man this week, so that can probably be in the next episode as well.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll go out to see it, but I'll definitely catch it on Netflix.
Yeah, but kind of a few more things before we go. Just small predictions for Phase 5. I think we are going to be seeing a Thor 5 announcement at
Yeah.
Comic Con. I don't think we're going to get a Guardians 4. I believe James Gunn and crew are pretty much ready to move on.
Right. They're pretty adamant that this one will be the last one.
Yeah, I think it'll be the last Guardians. I pretty sure like maybe everyone but Drax will continue to show up in the MCU, but I think specifically if there is a Guardians 4, I think it's going to be a completely different director coming on board.
Yeah, it'll be
Um,
interesting to see if they decide to continue with that property or not.
yeah, I do think that we'll get a Doctor Strange 3 announcement too. Just the way that the second one ended, I think we're definitely going to see a third one.
Do you think we'll get another Shang-Chi?
Uh, yeah, I could see a second one of that. I wouldn't even be shocked if we get Black Panther 3 being announced.
Interesting.
My big question is because I don't think Phase 4 is going to have a finale. I think Phase 4 is just going
No.
to shift into Phase 5. I don't think there's going to be any Avengers like thing to end Phase 4.
Right.
Um, the biggest question mark is Phase 5 going to end with Secret Wars? Because I've been hearing that for a while now. That's Marvel's next big event.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard whispers and people have asking the Russos all the time, like if they're gonna do that, or if they want to do that. I'm not keen on the comics. I don't know, the details of that story. I know that it's big and it's ambitious, and I mean, with the amount of cameos or whatever people in it, it would probably do well. People want to see everybody on screen. Um, I don't know what kind of buildup they would need to kind of get us in that direction. If this, the stars have even been placing, to align for something like that to happen.
Do you
So
think that's more of a like Phase 6
I
thing?
really, I really don't know. With the state of phase 4, we don't know any kind of direction that we're going into right now. So I guess we'll just have to wait for the Comic-Con panel to find out.
Yeah, I seriously think by the end of Phase 5, I imagine we're gonna get some sort of event, even if it's not Secret Wars. I just have a feeling like Marvel can't sit here forever without a big team up, and I imagine Phase 5 we're gonna see something. And
Right.
I don't know if it's gonna be Secret Wars, but I think we're going to see something of a big threat come along.
Yeah.
We'll probably get Loki season two's like probably window where it's going to come out,
Right. We'll
probably
get some
early next
more
year.
TV info, like with Armor Wars and Ironheart and those properties or whatever.
Yeah, we might
Um,
see a Fantastic Four cast announcement.
right. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know if it would be at this expo or whatever, but Spider-Man, I don't know if that's gonna happen or if
I
they're done with
imagine
that.
we're going to get a Spider-Man 4 sooner rather than later. Sony is never the one to be
Right.
sitting there waiting.
They're like, yeah,
Yeah,
we'd like another $1 billion.
yeah. The weird thing that's going on this year is that we have a Comic Con in July and a Disney D23 Expo in September. So I mean, literally, you know, they could go small here at Comic Con and then go big at D23 and announce more.
Or
Yeah,
they
I
could
mean,
go big, big. We don't know.
yeah, or big. I don't know how they do big, but yeah, Phase 5 announcement followed by Phase 6. I doubt it because they've said they never want to do that again after what
Right.
happened with Phase 3 and the fact that like they had announced Phase 3 and everything coming prior to even Age of Ultron dropping. So
But I mean, like they could tell us like a couple stuff in phase 5 and then, and we'd be super hyped for all those stuff. And then, then and D23, they're like, oh yeah. And then we're ending it with this huge team up thing. And then people would lose their mind. So yeah,
yeah,
we don't
that
know.
is true. They could go that route, and yeah, I mean, yeah. So the schedule looks a little unpredictable right now. I think we'll have a better look at things by the time the next episode drops. On top of that, the biggest change this channel's bad to see is that this episode is launching day and date on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So we've expanded this podcast to Apple Podcast and Spotify.
Right. Yes, we are now on all your favorite platforms. So shout out to Anthony for hooking that up. Hope you guys check us out there.
And outside of that, that pretty much concludes the episode for this week's.
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you guys for tuning in. For all the YouTube people, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell to stay up to date with whenever we're dropping a new episode. And if you're on audio platforms, give us a follow and like. I guess that's what they call it. But yeah, appreciate the listen.
Yeah, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Timebreaker Podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow us on all our socials and make sure you're up to date with whenever the next episode's dropping. We'll see you then.